The world's third largest platinum producer, Lonmin, is being accused of not sticking to a 10-year plan to improve the living conditions of its nearly 14,000 employees. Staff at the mine were the focus of South Africa's longest ever wage strike. Tuesday marks the 4th anniversary of the deaths of 34 miners who were killed by police while protesting against low pay and poor working conditions. In 2006, the company promised to build 5,500 houses by 2012 for the mostly migrant workers, earning less than $400 a month. With less than 100 houses built in 6 years later, miners went on strike and demanded a pay rise. Police shot dead 34 miners at Lonmin mine outside Marikana in the single most lethal use of force by security forces in post-apartheid South Africa. It came to be known as the Marikana Massacre. 4 years on, and Amnesty International has released a report saying the company had failed to improve the appalling living conditions despite a 3-year agreement to increase wages by $70 a year. In its rebuttal to the report, Lonmin said it had built nearly 3,000 of the 5,000 homes it promised, but would have to reconsider the nearly $8 million it plans to spend on housing going forward. Well, Greg Marinovich has written a book on the incident, Murder at Small Copy. I asked him if it's common for wage strikes in South Africa to turn violent.
There have been many strikes that have been peaceful and several high-profile ones that have been violent, and Marikana was one of those. And I think one has to look at the roots of where that strike came from and the socioeconomic conditions, the poverty and the great difficulty people have in surviving on what is almost poverty, almost slave wages. People halfway through the month would run out of cash, they'd go to a loan shark, get the money, repay them on payday, and of course still owe interest. So this all added to the pressure, and companies like Lonmin would allow their salaries to be garnished and wouldn't help them with other kinds of loans when they knew the internal documents show that they knew they were paying them subpar wages, even for that industry. It's a blot on the unions, it's a blot on society in general, and it's a blot on international business, which allows globalization to the extent that people, even in a relatively advanced country like South Africa, can be so terribly exploited for investor profits. The government has got a duty to protect its citizens and to have them have access to water and sanitation, and that is not the case in many areas, including Marikana, which is where Lonmin is based. But worse than that, Lonmin agreed to a social and labor plan to get their mining license, and that was to provide proper housing, education, lots of things, but mostly the housing and sanitation, which they never did. By 2012, they'd made 3 show houses, and that was it. People live in absolute squalor with no running water, long drop toilets, and some don't even have long drop toilets. It's disgusting.
Well, joining me from Marikana in South Africa is Thumika Magwankana. She is the chairwoman of the women's group called Sikhala Sonke. That was set up in 2012 in response to the Marikana massacre. Welcome to the program. Women were marginalised and forgotten about post-massacre. Have things changed 4 years on?
Good evening. There is no change at all. After 4 years of the massacre, there is no change here in Marikana. It is still the same. There is no change at all.
What would you like to see done?
Come again?
What would you like to see done?
In this place, there are no roads, there are no toilets, no sanitation, no water. Water comes and goes, and there are no roads. When it is raining, you can't come inside Marikana. You will leave your car outside the place, because if you get inside Nkani, in the informal settlement, you can't get inside. There are no roads. There is mud when it is raining. We are living in shacks, which when it is raining, there is water that comes inside and goes outside that side.
Okay, Thumika Magwankana, thank you so much for joining us here on Money Talks. I'm afraid we're out of time.